Okay, according to my clock, it's 11:30. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and happy St. Patrick's Day. I realized that I don't own any green, so I put on the scarf that has green so that I don't get pinched. I guess that's what happens, right? So I hope everyone's having a great rainy Thursday. We've got two great speakers today. Fred is joining us to talk about some history of our wonderful location. And then we are going to follow up with the George Colby and the FBLA students presenting. So apologies for not being able to meet in person. This meeting kind of snuck up on us. We weren't really sure what was going to happen with COVID and the climate, but we are going for April in person, most likely at the Camano Center. So stay tuned. It would be great to see everybody in person again over a nice luncheon. So if you have a couple protocol things, if you can keep yourself muted during the event or during the presentations, that's really helpful just for background noise. If you want to turn your video on, we'd love to see your face. And happy birthday, Asia Gray, joining us over there. She hates that I just told everyone it was her birthday, but it's Asia's birthday. So join me in wishing Asia happy birthday. So if we can just keep ourselves muted, if you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat and I will read the questions to the presenter after they're done. And we also will have any slides shown or materials sent out by email along with this recording. So you'll get all of that information. And I'm still letting a few people in. So, the other thing, if you have any announcements that you want to make, just put that in the chat too. And hopefully we'll have time after the presentations if you have any announcements about anything that you want to share with the group. Okay. So Fred Poyner IV is a historian and author with over 27 years of experience in researching and writing about art and the history of the Pacific Northwest. His first book, The First Sculptor of Seattle, The Life and Art of James A. Wen, was funded through the forculture.org Heritage Projects Grant Award in 2014 and has received both the Association of King County's Historical Organizations Virginia Marie Fulkins Award, that's a mouthful, right, for Outstanding Historical Publication, and the Washington Museum's Association Award of Excellence in 2015. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Art History from Western Washington University and a Master's of Arts degree in Museology and Art from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Fred is the author of two other published books about the history of sculpture in the Pacific Northwest: Seattle Public Sculptors, 12 Makers of Monuments, Memorials, and Statuary, 1909 to 1962, and Portland Public Sculptors, Monuments, Memorials, and Statuary, 1900 to 2003. His sixth book about the 150-year history of the Pacific Fishermen Shipyard of Seattle will be published in 2022. He's a regular contributing writer to the Filson Company, as well as other organizations and publications, including historylink.org, the Washington State Historical Society, National Nordic Museum, Museum of the Mountain Man, and Society of American Archivists. In 2021, Fred joined the Stanwood Area Historical Society as their first executive director. So we're pleased to have Fred with us today. Welcome to the Stanwood Camano area as the first executive director. And I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a nice welcome. And it's great to be here and meeting virtually with all of you. I, like probably all of you, are looking forward to the day when we can get back together and enjoy each other's company in the same room, face to face. I'm originally from Camano Island. I graduated from Stanwood, so I have really fond memories of this community growing up here. And so coming back as the first director for the Stanwood Historical Society is really a nice way for me to give back to this community and reconnect with a lot of people and learn about new people here. So what I'm going to talk about today is just really some some ways of looking at history, and especially in our region, Camano Island and Stanwood, and just examine a few specific things in the context of really two questions, which I'll get to in just a second. In addition to that, as a way of trying to offer additional information, I'll have some really good resources that I've found useful over the years in terms of research, writing, and sharing information about history. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and share my presentation here. And here we go. And let's see. I'll go ahead and minimize that. Historical points and local resources for our area. One of the, here we go. So when looking at different topics about history, there are two key things that I always look at trying to put together either an exhibit or a story or an article or a program so people can learn about history. These are kind of two key things that I've found over the years just keep coming up. And the first is, what is it you're trying to find out? Before you can find an answer, you need to know what your question is. And I know this sounds really kind of basic, but a lot of times, if you're trying to find out information about history, it's good to have an idea of what you're trying to learn. It's a little bit of a chicken or the egg, but having a basic understanding of what you're trying to find out is really helpful when you're looking at history and researching it. And the other part is, and this I can't take credit for, I learned it from Alan Stein, who's a longtime historian with History Like. He had a great kind of mantra, what is the story that you want to tell if you're trying to describe history or present it to others? What is the story about? Because we all have stories, and that, in a nutshell, is often what history can help us do. It can help us tell a story. So as we go through this, I noted several kind of keywords. The first word I'm going to throw out this morning is origins. And in this case, the word origins and how it reflects or is tied to Camano Island and Stanwood. Camano Island has long been the home of indigenous people here in the Northwest. This from the people from the Stillaguamish River, a tribe called the Kikaloos, the Skagits to the north, and the Snohomish people to the south. And Camano Island actually takes its original name, Kalutchin, from the Snohomish people, which means land jutting into the bay. And everyone who's looked at Camano understands that instinctively. Stanwood, as it turns out, was a name that comes from the first mayor of the town. His name was Dio Pearson, and he came here from, like many who settled the Pacific Northwest, from the East Coast. He was originally from Boston. And originally Stanwood was known as Centerville up through the 1870s until Pearson arrived here. What's interesting about that name is that he took his wife's maiden name, and that's how Centerville was renamed Stanwood. And in other ways, he contributed much to the development of the town. He established the first wharf in terms of enabling more waterway commerce, and had one of the very first markets, mercantile stores on the west side. And so he made his fortune kind of building that up as a business endeavor, and in the process helped a lot of the pioneers that were homesteading and seeking to establish new lives here. For me, the identity of indigenous peoples is a fantastic subject and one that is well worth the study and investigation. What I'd like to always suggest with any research of historical topics is look at the primary source. What is the primary source material? What are good sources for finding out those details? And in terms of a local site, I want to recommend the Highbold Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve, which is outside of Marysville on the Tulalip Tribal Reservation. They have a fantastic center there that includes collections, a library, tours, educational programs. One year I took my son and his Boy Scout, Cub Scout troop there to a welcoming ceremony in the longhouse they have there. And it was just a great, fantastic experience. So if you have an opportunity, I would certainly recommend Highbold as a place to go. If you do have questions about local Native American history and who these people were, how they lived, and how they have made a huge story that continues to this day. I've heard it said by members that, one of the concerns they have is they don't want to be just referred to as a people of the past. They are living today. They're celebrating their culture, their ways of life, their beliefs, and Highbold is a good place to learn more about those. I'm going to also stump here for the Research Center, which is part of the Washington State Historical Society in Tacoma. One of the great things about their collection is it goes all the way back to the days when Washington was yet even to become a territory. And then there are also materials leading up to when it became part of the state, as part of the Union. In terms of research, they have a fantastic library and research center. It is for in-person research, so you have to make an appointment. But the things like papers from early settlers, maps that date back to Lewis and Clark, really it is just a wealth of information. If you are looking for something specific, not just about the region, but about specific towns as well. A lot of times there are a lot of hidden gems, and they have a really great staff there and online collection. And kind of one of the outreach parts of that they do is Columbia Magazine, which is a quarterly publication they put out with articles. There's a link there if you're curious and want to check out, or if you're looking for what's been written about a certain topic. Okay, so my next word is kind of a two-part: water and settlements. And in terms of this history, one of the common threads that is passed down over the years here is that much of our history on Camano and Stanwood has involved the water. It's partly geography, partly the people who settled here. Many of them were Scandinavians who came from the Nordic countries, and this was a permanent stopping point for them. A lot of them came to the East Coast. They moved through the Midwest. Some settled there around the Great Lakes, Minnesota. But a lot of the Scandinavian immigrants who came here in the late 19th, early 20th century continued on to the Pacific Northwest, because there was this real connection between the land here and much of what was there, what we call the old world. The fjords of Norway, the coastlines of Finland and Sweden, the islands of Denmark and Iceland, and that was just something that really resonated with a lot of people that were originally from there. So we see this continuity of water and coastlines connected with settlement, ranging with topics, impacting everything from transportation and commerce to the environment and how people made a living. One of the first that was from Norway, Zacharias Toffason, was someone who came here in 1865. I believe was a homesteader and set up. This was kind of a way. They were hardworking people, worked to take back land for farming and constructed dikes. They were not afraid of hard work, and that's part of our history here that we see even today in the land and how settlements around Camano and Stanwood have been done. This is a really great image. Shows the the Stanwood waterfront area on the Stillaguamish in 1886. This is really the very foundation of the town. There's not too many buildings, but you can already see that there's been some development in terms of wharfs and piers, some more permanent structures. I believe the two-story edifice on the left is the Stanwood Saloon and Hotel, which was one of the first buildings established. In terms of the livelihood and transportation, indigenous peoples used dugout canoes. This was a very common early way for settlers to get around as well. A lot of times they would come to Seattle and they would bring their supplies up in dugout canoes or boats. And so this was a way that was a readily way to get around and through the river channels into the low shallow tideland areas. And this was a way that natives also interacted with new settlers, did trade and communications. And this image is actually from the Stanwood Area's Historical Society's collection, one of many great ones. And then this development aspect of immigration also involved others. Olympia, in fact, sent out a party in 1876. It was sort of an expedition. This sloop, the Albatross, ended up high and dry, just outside of Centerville, and Iverson, along with a couple others, could see the town and ended up walking in to explore it further. Iverson ended up purchasing with a couple of other family members Lecky Island, which is that little island that's between Stanwood and Camano, that's still here to this day. It's another good image. This is a little further along in Stanwood's development when steamship stern paddle wheelers were starting to make regular stops and bring everybody from passengers to prospectors, new merchants, people that were involved in agriculture and developing ways to get their products out. The railroad did come to Stanwood early, but as it happens, it was not the cheapest way to get goods out of here. And so for a while, the steamboats still had an advantage in that respect. They were a cheaper way to move commodities back and forth. And this one shows the Gleaner, the stern paddle wheeler, steam powered. Just kind of on this note, if anybody gets a chance to get up to Anacortes, there's a boat called the W.T. Preston, which was a snag boat. That's part of the permanent display. I think the city runs it. It's on dry land, but it's a great example of an early 20th century boat that worked these rivers to keep them free of logs and other debris. That was kind of a necessity to keep the routes open. So a couple really great resources. In terms of Nordic history and immigration, the Nordic Museum in Ballard has a great collection and exhibits that focus on Nordic peoples that came here from 5 countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Iceland primarily. They have a great collection, and it's neat to see how things like bunad's and folk costumes and spinning wheels, Bibles, things that were brought from the Nordic countries ended up here to help these families establish new homes, new connections to their heritage that have been passed down through the generations. We had at the Nordic Museum, we had a donation of an Icelandic wedding dress, that had been originally made in the 1880s and worn by 5 generations of the same Icelandic family that came here and settled in Montana. And it was just beautiful. It sits on display at the Nordic Museum if you're curious. Just this beautiful wool, dark wool bunad with floral motifs and woven silver thread, and the headdress and everything. Just really, really fantastic. You know, if you're looking to do more of a deep dive into the history of immigration and settlement, another really good resource is the Washington State Archives in Olympia. And the state archives are by appointment, much like the State Historical Society in Tacoma, but they are really the state's repository for papers and maps, official documents for the territory and the government. And they also have a very substantial online collection if you're looking for things like family history and materials like that. Well, seeing how we're doing on time, I'm gonna try to move along a little quicker here. Really, the next two have to do with coastlines related to water. It's important to mention that coastlines and harbors of Camano have been really key in livelihood and business activities and also pleasure activities over time. To give you a good example, Uttulahti at one point was a small harbor on the North Shore. One of the first businesses that was built around that was a sawmill, and going as early as 1853, which was the first year Washington became a territory. The mill did change hands from the original owner, Craney, in 1876, and was bought by the Puget Mill Company, who continued to use it to ship out lumber from the mill by water. That closed in 1890, but lumber, as we all know, has continued to this day to be a valuable export from the Pacific Northwest in many of our communities. It's also worth mentioning that Uttulahti was kind of a hotspot for sailing ships and then steamships that were going outbound to places like San Francisco. One kind of cautionary tale was of the steamship Pacific, which headed out from Uttulahti in 1875, had a load of gold from the local mining districts as part of that with the passengers, but unfortunately struck another vessel at sea and was a total loss. And this goes to the point about how dangerous the waters in Puget Sound can be. The Strait of Juan de Fuca, the coastline, certainly in the mouth of the Columbia Bar, have over the years collectively claimed many lives and many ships. So it's important to recognize that not everything about history is ever what we want to hear, but that kind of comes with doing the research and learning about it. As a little aside, 5 years later, after that, President Rutherford Hayes made a stop at the harbor in 1880 aboard the steamer Star. And certainly, last but not least, Kamba Beach on the southwest side of the island, one of the first resorts that opened in 1934 with about 2 dozen cabins. This is a great tale because it shows how Kamba Beach went from a private resort to what is now today a state park. It's a really great example of how stewardship has ensured that can continue to be preserved and enjoyed for people to come. You can stay at the cabin there now and rent it through the state. And but at the same time, it's got this great preservation aspect, which is important. In terms of historical buildings, of which there are a couple at the Stanwood Historical Society, or locations like Kamba Beach, where we want to try and preserve the environment, preserve it for use by the community as a shared space. It's a great image. I was just there the other day with my family. In fact, it was nice. We had a breakfast at the the Camel Beach Cafe, and then we all walked down and enjoyed the shoreline. It's nice. A couple really good resources. I'll just make a stump for our collection here. We do have limited hours for the public, and but we have a lot of great collections that are on site. If you have any questions, you can contact me, or you can check out our website. And Camel Beach State Park as well has a lot of great information online, including reservation inquiries for the cabins. And a lot of great history is encapsulated there as well. Okay, the last really quick, exploration and discovery in history are key. And this is true whether it was done by travelers and pioneers or the rest of us that are seeking to learn about history. A really good example of early exploration was the American Captain Robert Gray, who was one of the first navigators to explore the Columbia River in 1792. I think he and George Vancouver are probably the two best known names as far as early maritime exploration. But if you want to read a really good essay about it by Kit Oldham, there's one on the History Link site about Gray's passage. And there's History Link, which again has over 8,000 articles today, many accompanied by images, very detailed information. And History Link, I'll say this, they do their really good job with their resources and noting those at the end of every article. So often you can find more information besides what's in the original article. So my information there. On Wednesdays and Saturdays, please feel free to come by and say hello or call me and I'll give you a tour. The Pearson House on the preservation note is closed right now. We're doing some work on the roof, but that will be done pretty soon here, as soon as the rain stops. Really quick, I mentioned George Vancouver. My first book about James Wen researched a lot of Wen's sculpture. He did medallions, portrait busts, statues. He's maybe best known for the great statue of Chief Seattle that's outside of Seattle Center, of the Suquamish chief, after which Seattle is named. Here's another one, a medallion he did about George Vancouver's exploration aboard his ship. That's at Crescent Beach. And there's another example, a medallion of Chief Kitsap, which this is actually included on the as part of this Chief Seattle statue. If you look on the base, there's a small rendition of this. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Fred. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat for Fred. Which resource, my question would be, I get a lot of phone calls from people who have moved to the area, who may have bought a house that they feel like may have some historical moment, or they want to know more about the history of their property. Do you have a specific resource you would point them to for that?
Actually, it turns out that we do have a large number of property records in the archives of the Stanwood Area Historical Society. Not exhaustive by any means, but as far as if we're looking for Stanwood, then that's certainly something that we may be able to help with in terms of research.
Okay. Great.
Excuse me.
I will point them back to you.
For other non-local, I'd say Washington State Digital Archives. You can look up locations, names. A lot of times they'll have public property records through there as well.
Okay, great. Did you want to mention, I know you guys have a big anniversary coming up, right?
We do, in fact. Thank you, Jessica. We are celebrating 50 years at the Stanwood Area Historical Society as an organization. And on Saturday, May 14th, we'll be hosting a luncheon there at Floyd Hall, the Floyd Norgaard Cultural Center Hall. It is by ticketed reservation, and if you'd like to learn more about that, I can share the address, or you can just go to our website, www.stsc.org. SAHS-FNCC.org. But it's going to be a great event. It's our major fundraiser of the year for us as a nonprofit. Kama Beach Catering Cafe is going to cater it, and we'll have a great program by Jill Morelli, who's a genealogist.
Great, and I'm gonna have on my list to get that event on our chamber calendar as well. So
thank you. Yeah.
If anybody's looking for that. All right. Well, thank you very much, Fred. I don't think there were any questions. I think that was a great presentation. I think our history is fascinating, and I'm looking forward to ways that we can, as a chamber, make sure that we're representing our history accurately for people who live here, but as well as visitors too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to transition to George Colby with Stanwood High School and the FBLA students. So thanks for being here, George.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you want to try to share your screen again?
I do. I'm going to see if I can figure this out again here.
We'll
so let me do that, and then we do
slideshow.
This right there, slideshow. Fantastic. All right. Hey, thank you guys for being here, and I think that this is one of many times that we've had a chance to come and kind of share the different things there that we do at the high school. I always kind of joke with kids and that stuff that the Chamber of Commerce is basically FBLA for adults and that stuff as well there too. It's a place where people that have that are successful, where they kind of join together and they come up with educational things as well as a chance to network as well too. So we've been partners with you guys for many years, but I did want to say too that the slide that you see up there now too, you can see that that's my name and that's my phone here at school as well, and that's my extension as well as my email address there as well too. The very bottom of the screen there, you can see that we also maintain an Instagram account. You guys are all invited to go ahead and join that there if you'd like to keep up to date on the different things that we're doing. And then in the middle there, we have our state's FBLA page. And then in the far right, you'll see our national page there as well too. But this morning, I'm just really glad to be able to have the chance to share a little bit about us and the different things that we do. This is now my 28th year. It just seems like I just started, but I've been doing this now for 28 years. And it's been really fun. So this is FBLA is an extra thing that I do above and beyond the business class that I teach and the finance class and the web page and all of the different classes that I do each year. FBLA is that one thing above and beyond there too. And the reason why that I do it is because I absolutely love to watch kids thrive and just really start to answer those big questions there in life. Fred there, before he brought up some questions there too, he talked about the question about what is the question that you seek to answer. And I would say that in a typical year that I'm faced with all kinds of kids that are also trying to answer that very same question, like knowing what they're going to do in life and looking for those experiences, playing sports or being in a club or, the teachers they meet. And then too, a real big thing with me is that I like to, encourage kids to live a great story, to tell a great story with their lives and to be known for kind kids, compassionate kids, and that stuff as well too. So I also work with our ASB team, the class officers here as well at school, and it's just really fun. You can see on the slide there too that the officer team, we have Chloe, who is our chapter pres. We have Andrew, who is our vice president treasurer this year. Shar Moore is our secretary, and Matthew is our PR guy. and Taylor Brown serves this year as our reporter historian. So just some quick facts about us. You know, these numbers have really grown and changed throughout the years and that stuff or whatever. And I stopped a long time ago, being really proud that I had 10% of the student body involved in FBLA. I much prefer to have a much smaller number of kids that I can really work with, because while it was an ego boost to have that many kids, I found that I could really only work with about 50 or so kids at once to coach them in their events and to travel with them and all that kind of stuff. So this year we have 42 kids, and this is the first year they're kind of coming out of the pandemic and that stuff too. And so I feel like that's a really good start for us there as we're on the rebuild. The dues that the kids pay are $30. And we are a national outfit as well there too. So when kids pay their dues and that stuff, then when we send it to our national office, who then sends part to our state, and it just kind of goes from there. The third bullet point there, there's 75 or so. There's many events for kids to choose from, and I'll have these three here with me now. They'll share a bit about the events there that they did and the different success that they've had or anything else there. But I typically ask kids to sign up for at least 3 or 4 things. So the fourth point there is our schedule. We just had our regionals last month, and it was at our high school since we have a new school. State is coming up in April, and you can see the cost there too. And that's basically a kid's 1/4 of a room cost. So we still need some additional funds there too. And we haven't been able to fundraise just because of the pandemic and everything. But you can see that that's going to take place. We're going to be in a bus, and we're heading to Spokane for 3 nights and 4 days. And I'd say at the state conference, there'll be a couple thousand kids there. And then at our nationals, which we don't know the cost there yet, but I should say that in my 28 years of doing this, we've always had a national team that comes from our school, which I think is a really cool thing. So, but this year we're going to be in Chicago again. I think this will be my 3rd or 4th time going there with FBLA. And then the final bullet point there too is that just to, you know, to restate the idea that we typically really try to partner with you guys in the events that you guys have, like we've done many chili chowder feeds and many events throughout the years and that stuff or whatever. But you know, as we all know, just like we're having to meet in this style here too, that, you know, we're just kind of coming back and trying to reestablish what normal is. So I'll be on back at the very end, but I did want to let these guys kind of speak for themselves. And so I'd like to introduce you to a guy named Matthew. And this is him right here.
Hi, so as you know, I'm Freddie. I'm Matthew Mendez. And before I talk a little about what FBLA has done for me, I would like to talk a little bit about myself. So I'm a sophomore here at Stanwood High School, and this is actually my first year in FBLA. I really enjoy it. And other activities I do here at Stanwood High School is I'm a member of choir, I do powerlifting, I do track and cross country. So those are some things I'm involved here at the school. And then also our wonderful advisor, Mr. Colby, offered me if I would like to join FBLA this year. And I didn't want to take that offer down because I always like trying new things. And what I really enjoy about FBLA, it gives me new experiences to stuff I haven't understood before. Something that's great about being a high schooler is now's the time to make mistakes. Yeah. So I can try whatever I want right now and see if I like it or not. And I don't suffer as many consequences as doing so. But a little bit about FBLA is I'm a PR with FBLA. So I run the Instagram account for FBLA. So everything that you see on there for this year was all done by me. I work on that. Something that's really hard right now with us, well, now it's not anymore, but at the beginning of the year, we had to struggle with the difficulties of COVID. So we had to figure out how to problem solve through that. We had to figure out how we can make outreach to members in our school through, so we could have FBLA meetings, and we just had to figure out how to go that. So we had a lot of problem solvings there. And one thing that FBLA has really done for me, it's really made me grow of who I am. It's made me understand that tough situations will come up, and sometimes when you feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, that will help you later down the road, because whenever you're uncomfortable, it leads you to being more comfortable in uncomfortable situations down the road. So that's one thing that I'm very grateful. And some things that I do here at FBLA is I have 2 competitive events that I'm going to state for. Well, 3 technically, but 2 that I competed here at regionals. I came first place in financial math, the intro to financial math, where you basically do math equations, you figure out percentages, how much you should pay your employees based off how much money your business take in and all that stuff. And so I did really well in that event. And then the other event that I did was client service. And that's where you're on a role-playing event with the judge and you're basically trying to figure out how to solve the situation that's at hand. The situation that I was given was, I was given a situation where there was a landscaping company that I worked for and the person referred someone, so they got a discount. So I had to figure out how to get all the information and stuff like that. What's really cool about the event for me doing it my first time, having little experience in it, came in second place out of the whole people I competed. So that really was a confidence boost and it really made me very happy to do what I do. And another thing that's very cool about FBLA is we get all these experiences. So we actually did a college tour one time to Central, which is, I really enjoy that school and it's a really good business school too. So it'd be nice if I could go there, but we still get to explore more schools too. So it's really cool because FBLA is like an eye-opening experience. You get to experience whatever you can. And we only have so much time to learn. So may as well start it now. So very proud to be a future business leader of America.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. I'd like to introduce now Chloe, who is our chapter pres.
Hi, my name is Chloe Corbett, and this year I'm a sophomore and I'm currently serving as the president of Stanwood FBLA here at Stanwood High School. I'm going to start off with what FBLA means to me. To me, being in FBLA means to be a leader who is driven for success. And we get to show this drive for success through competition at a regional, state, and national level. Personally, I've found my own success up to a national level through FBLA in many events. So my freshman year, I was able to make it to nationals, and this year we had regionals last month, and I placed first in 3 of my events out of 4, and I placed third in my presentation event. And I competed in organizational leadership, advertising, intro to FBLA, and business ethics. And FBLA has really shaped my high school career in many, many ways. If I didn't join FBLA, I would not have any of the opportunities that I would have had now, and I would not hold any of the leadership positions that I currently do at Stanwood High School. Currently, I am sophomore class secretary, president of FBLA, and secretary of Holiday Club at Stanwood High School, and I'm planning on running for another position for this upcoming year. And I gained this confidence to do so through FBLA. FBLA has helped me find myself, and before joining, I was really reserved and quiet and not willing to put myself out there. And through FBLA, I've gained a sense of confidence and found my strengths as a leader to put myself out there and try new things. And I wouldn't be here without Mr. Colby. My freshman year, I was in his entrepreneurship class, and he told me that, I should try it out. And I was really hesitant at first because I didn't know what it was. I wasn't involved with anything. And so I decided to join, and it has been one of my best decisions that I've ever made. And when I first competed at regionals and I placed my freshman year, that's when I knew this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I'm passionate about. And I found my passion, and now I want to go to school. I want to go to college for some sort of business, and I want to go into marketing. And yeah, overall, FBLA has taught me leadership skills, has taught me how to have integrity in my choices that I make, and it has taught me just how to be a good person and how to go through my high school career with confidence and good choices. And that is all.
Thank you, Chloe. All right. Wow. Okay. And I'd like to introduce you guys to Andrew Norton. Some of you may have seen him before. He's our school board rep as well there too. He's a busy guy. But here's Andrew.
Yeah, so my name's Andrew Norton. I'm a junior here at Stanwood High School. And you guys, kind of going back about myself, I'm a big ASB kid. So I started out by being president of my middle school. I've been vice president of my class, president of FBLA my freshman year. I've been the public relations officer for Stanwood High School and the student representative for the Stanwood Camano School District. So I get around a lot with ASB stuff and communications. What FBLA means to me, kind of to go back on my backstory. I started out as an 8th grader coming into high school. I was top of my class. As much as an 8th grader was, happy, living, top of the school. Then you get thrown into a high school with 1,400 kids and you're just a freshman. So it was a little overwhelming. I didn't know where to go. So it was a little rough at first, but I met Mr. Colby, who's my street law teacher. I decided to take law my freshman year because I figured I always loved it. And one day he's like, hey, tomorrow's late start Wednesday. That means you can still sleep in. You can come in my club. Just check out what FBLA is. And so at first I was like, here's a club. I don't really want to get involved with this because I kind of want to lay low freshman year. But I was like, you know what, sure. So I woke up bright and early the next day, came to school, and I was really second guessing it. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a club for me. Didn't even know if I liked business. But I walked in the door. I got donuts and hot chocolate, and was told that I can watch and listen about this meeting. So of course I was going to listen. So I ended up sitting through it, and I realized more and more that this isn't just a club. This is honestly, it's a community within the high school. It's kids who all share something in common. This is the one club I still believe to this day that me and someone who I've never met in my entire life, don't have any classes with or something, can all be friends. Because even though we may do different events, like I do sports, they do finance, we're still friends because we're all sharing the same club and the same strive to be the best we can possibly be. So my freshman year, I was ready to go. I started understanding it. I talked to Mr. Colby. I was really getting involved with the club, setting up stuff, events for us. We got a lot of kids in the club. We were living good. And then all of a sudden, this thing called COVID came along and cut all of my events and everything in half. So I spent about a year or so struggling to figure out what we could do for the club. And it kind of just, it became hard to deal with just because, everything was closed. So fast forward to sophomore year, I was still a little nervous about the club, but Mr. Colby, he's like, hey, you're going to love it. Just stick through the competition. It'll be worth it. So I decided to do something I've never done before. He had me go into job interview, which I'm like a 15-year-old. What do I know about job interview? Like, this is not my thing, sitting in front of adults and answering questions. But I was like, you know what? One day I got to get a job. I might as well try it now. So I decided to practice with them. He gave me a couple mock interviews. I realized it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But to express confidence and knowing what you do is good is pretty much the key to win a job interview. And so I sat through it, and it was kind of one of those things where I was really nervous. I was going into it, you could see my hands shaking, everything. It was pretty funny. But I went in there. I did my interview. It was virtually because it was a little rough, so I had to do it. When I tell you I had to do it in the back, like in my car, because I was on my way to practice. I was literally doing it in my car on the way to football, and I did it. I didn't feel like I felt like I could do my best, and I did the best I could. And sure enough, I ended up getting first place, which was a huge shocker to get first place out of the Northwest FBLA. So I realized, okay, now I gotta shape up my game. Now I'm going to state. I got to compete. So I spent months practicing. I went to state, and I did not place because they are really good there, and I was pretty new to it. But Mr. Colby told me one of the things that I learned it. Now I know all of the the aspects of what the event is. So now that I know what job interview is, what I need to place, and how I did, why can't I go and win it next year? So that's what I did. So this year I tried it, the job interview again. I won first place again, and now I'm going to state. And I assure you guys, I'm going to win. I got this. So that's my goal is to win state this year for job interview. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it was through, job interview in this event that I gained the confidence I have now. I gained the ability to be on the school board next to the superintendent and, tell the whole city about, what my high school is doing and why we're, the best high school in all of the state. I met through FBLA, I decided to join ASB and get involved with it. I've met with the governor now multiple times talking about Stanwood High School and how we're getting recognized for all of the work we do. Because we are one of the only high schools in the area that through COVID still kept together a unified student body. Through social media, what Matthew does here with PR and everything, we're reaching out to the students, whether they're at home on, scrolling on their phone, whether they're watching TV, if they're watching a Zoom meeting, they can see, all of us in assemblies. It's one of those things that doesn't just help me, it helped the whole student body because it helped me who was in, the ability to be able to reach out to all the students, through FBLA, gave me the confidence and the ideas that I can now push out to the student body, and now they're joining our club. So it's one of those things where I don't just owe FBLA, credit for giving me confidence, but for giving my school confidence. It gave me the ability to create fun events, for assemblies, We're playing obstacle courses during assemblies now. Those are FBLA events, things I learned, little games to talk. It's just one of those things where me and the student body all owes a lot of our stuff to Mr. Colby and FBLA. So FBLA to me means pretty much everything to me. Thank you.
Wow. These are great kiddos. And, I was just, I continue to be struck by such awesome kids that I get to work with each year. I am always really surprised as I see kids kind of come out of the woodwork and, decide to try it and that stuff. And I love that spark that comes from, and the confidence spark that comes from them actually believing me that they can do this if they just try. And I love that about FBLA. I remember about the 23rd years or so back and that stuff. I've been doing this for 28 now, but it was after a regional conference out at Warm Beach camp, and we had finished up, and so I went in to do attendance and that stuff. And I came back out, and one of the students who competed was there, and she placed like second or third in her thing or whatever. I mean, it was good, but I mean, it wasn't, like top or anything like that, but she was crying. And so I asked her, wow, I just, why are you upset? And she said, you know what? I have always been really good at sports. That's what has made me stand out. That's the thing that really draws attention to me. This is the first time that I've had a chance to win because I'm smart as well. And that was my hook. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I love that about this club. I just love the fact that kids can do sports and can do all those things, but also they have a channel now to get noticed because they're smart as well. So, and so my final thoughts would be there too, that, I'm speaking to a group of people there that are successful, that have opened up their own shop and that stuff. And some of you have done, a couple things as well there too. But, the kids that I work with are still in that dream stage. They're still in that place where they're trying to figure out what they're going to do in life and how it all fits and that stuff. And, my goal is just to encourage them, to try to inspire them, and to try to just say, yes, I know it's hard, but keep going. I promise you, it really does pay off there in the end. And so I love what I do, as you can tell. And this has been a huge part of my life as well there now for many, many years. But so I guess what I would say is I think I'm aware that the chamber hasn't really had a chance to really do many, events and that stuff or whatever. But I invite any one of you guys that would like to come in and be a guest speaker, say in my business class or one of my classes and that stuff, to come share your expertise, your story. I'd love to hear from you in that way. I also too, I'm always trying to find ways to lower the cost of what it takes to be involved in FBLA. You saw the numbers there on the slide, and it is pretty expensive, especially when kids are doing sports as well there too. So I'm always trying to find sponsors for these great kids to take that money and to use it as a scholarship for them, to help them kind of keep going and that stuff or whatever. And then as soon as we can start to fundraise and that stuff, we'll start doing that as well too. But just want to leave that with you guys there too, that I really do appreciate this chance to share the things that I get to do up here at the high school. I don't take those things for granted, and it really results in some great kids like you just heard from. So can I answer any questions of anybody for any of the students or anybody else there as well?
If anyone has questions, you can just unmute yourself. You can put it in the chat.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say I'm so impressed with these young people, and George, keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's awesome.
I will reach out to you personally because I have a few ideas. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
So there is something in the chat from Melanie saying that she's been living on Camano for over 10 years and there isn't much opportunity to see or even interact with the teens from our local area. And we're blessed with the caliber of students that are here. Thank you all.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Yes,
thank
indeed.
you. Chloe, Matthew, and Andrew, you guys did a wonderful job. This is always one of my favorite chamber
Absolutely.
meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we are so lucky to have Mr. Colby in our community with such dedication to these kids. So I do encourage all of you on the call to keep supporting FBLA in any way that you can. I know that the Camano Chamber is looking forward to that sponsorship request to help you guys out for your competition schedule that we've done historically. So we appreciate all of you. We're hopeful we can have a chili cheddar cook-off this fall. So we always need and appreciate all the help that has been provided to our events in the past. So there's some other just kudos going on in the chat. You guys did great. Congratulations. Does anyone have any announcements? I know there were a couple people on here from CAA. Does anyone want to say anything about the upcoming art tour?
This is Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we're back to the Mother's Day weekend and the weekend after we call Encore. So May 6, 7, 8 and 14, 15. The artists, there'll be around 40 artists on the studio tour. And we hope that all of our visitors will return. We are doing a focus more on a digital brochure this year, trying to get away from as many printed brochures that end up lots of times in the garbage can after the studio tour. So digital redesign is being done, and you will be seeing a save the date card, and you can request a copy to be mailed out to you, but you have to fill out the survey. We're collecting information for our grants and updating our email list at the same time. So if you want a printed brochure sent to your home, you need to fill out the survey and request a brochure. So I don't know if Amy has anything else she can offer, but she's an artist and working on her jewelry right now. Go, Amy.
I don't have it. Well, hi everybody. I'm Amy. I'm new to the chamber and I'm glad to be here. I don't have anything to offer about the tour except for that I'll be new to it. So looking forward to being more part of the community by joining the tour. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you, Jessie.
Yeah. All right, Mona.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're hiring guides right now. And if you know any people that are interested in one of the most fun jobs out there, leading people through the forest on our zipline tour, we'd love to hear from those people. And we take applications through jobs@canopytoursnw.com.
18 plus, right, Mona?
Yes. Yes, 18 plus.
Was that what you were going to ask, Amy? Okay. Yes, it's a pretty cool job. My eldest did it last summer and loved it. So highly recommended. He's hoping to come back to this summer as well.
Yay.
I know. I'm happy to have him back. Any other questions, announcements? I'm trying to think. I believe Remax Community Chest concert, or there's a grant out for Remax Community Chest. Am I right, Ellen? Oh, Ellen's on the phone. SCAF just sent that out for any nonprofits in the area. So if you're interested, I can forward that information on to you. And I believe they're already scheduling that concert at Christopherson Farms, right, Mona? This summer, I think.
Yes. Yeah. April 19th, I think. Or I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, August. August.
So I think we're going to have a big busy summer, everyone. It looks like stuff is starting to get scheduled. Everyone is just looking forward to lots of events happening. So we are excited to support them. If you do have events and you want to apply for our sponsorship fund, that application is You can find it on our website. I can also email you the PDF. It just has to go before the board meetings. So please keep that in mind as we start gearing up for summer. But it was wonderful to see everyone. Thanks for being here. Enjoy the rainy day.